Guys, welcome back to Going Deep with Brett English. We are joined by medicine man Joel Camp today, and we're going to dive into a lot of different topics about medicine and shamanism and things like that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, man. Could you tell us how earth blessings came about?
Plant medicine had always been a big, a big thing for me. Growing up, my grandmothers were, the common term now would be hedge witch. Both of them were herbal healers.
Oh, beautiful.
And so I was introduced to the power of plants in terms of navigating toothaches, headaches, just simple things. And then that was kind of, my formative years. And then
awesome.
I went off and decided to pursue a career in commercial cookery. But I found I always kept drawing back to the medicinal aspect of food, of herbs, of food. And so I was kind of trying to sneak as much medicine into the food that I was cooking as possible. And then working, ridiculously high pressure, high stress jobs. I had fallen into addiction as a way of maintaining the energy and the vigor that was needed to work 100 hours a week.
Oh, wow. And that was I'm assuming chef work.
Yes.
In kitchens and late hours and stuff like that.
Early mornings, late hours, working in some of the best restaurants in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Chasing that as a lifestyle, as a dream, as a goal. And in order to maintain that, I didn't have to, but I chose to look at amphetamines as a way as sustaining, how can I work more? How can I be more? How can I be on the job before anyone else and off the job after anyone else?
True. And amphetamines would be perfect for that.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what it's designed for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which wasn't a healthy thing at all.
No.
And when I realized that was something that was hugely negative impacting my life in multiple ways. I went through the rehab program, and then I found medicines like San Pedro and ayahuasca in order to help me move through and understand what was the root of my addictive tendencies. And that was my introduction to that style of plant medicine.
Wow.
But then, I changed a lot of things in my life, but I was still heavily in that commercial cookery world. And although I'd stepped back from a lot of really high-end, top-name restaurants and was just running other restaurants, they were still large restaurants. The pressure was still mounting. I was working less hours, but I had no real way of navigating that amount of stress.
Yeah.
So compounding stress, long hours, fatigue, addiction recovery, I found that the first thing that was I was having erectile dysfunction and really low libido. Really low libido, erectile dysfunction, and at the time I was in my early 20s, and I'm like, this can't be
good.
This can't be the way forward.
Yeah.
This can't be what life is for.
100%. And would you find that just the lack of sleep and the heavy stress was just draining you of your life force?
Everything was just draining of life force. And so, but my main, being a mid-20s, early to mid-20s man, my main concern was my dick.
True. Even still today.
And so I was just like, I can't have, Viagra can't be the thing that sustains me for the rest of my life. I'm 20. And so that was the point that I called my grandmothers, and I'm like, hey, do you know of aphrodisiacs? And they pointed me into a few things that they knew. But one of my friends and one of my grandmothers both suggested that I seek out the aid of a traditional Chinese medicine doctor.
Okay.
And so I did, and we started working with a few programs. And within 6 months, my libido and my function was pretty much the same as when I was 14. Like
Wow.
I was insatiable.
Beautiful. It's Chinese medicine.
Yeah. And that was like, I guess, outside of being a child, the first time I really saw how powerful herbs and plants can be. And so it was that point that I decided to cut back the amount of hours that I was working, and so that I would have 3 days a week.
Awesome.
And I just dedicated those days to training under the doctors, under any traditional Chinese medicine doctor that would take me in, that would essentially let me do work experience or apprentice under them. And so I spent probably four years under 3 different doctors.
Wow.
In Chinese medicine, just like, you know, initially running errands,
Yeah.
you know, helping fill caps, getting things from the shelf, but like getting to build relationships with the medicine.
Yeah.
And because I'm like, I want to do this unpaid. Like, I don't expect you to pay me.
Yeah.
I want to learn from you.
That's beautiful.
And they were very forthcoming with knowledge. So I ended up spending about 4 years training with 3 different doctors. And then I was just like, okay, what other traditional medicines are there? And so then I did the thing for a few years with an Ayurvedic doctor.
Okay, cool.
And then went back to my family lineage to understand more of like the European hedge witchcraft style of herbal medicines.
Awesome. So what's your lineage exactly? Is it Nordic or?
It's predominantly Celtic.
Yeah, okay.
So Celtic, Nordic, and Australian Indigenous.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. You got a lot of knowledge there from different
Yeah,
places.
and
bringing it
a lot of different medicine work to draw upon, and so that's largely what I do now.
That's what Earth Blessings is.
That's,
You've got
it's
all
the
stuff coming
accumulation
together.
of everything, and you know, coming from that sort of European, more witchcraft background through my family, and then that's made up a lot of my religious practice for for the majority of my life. And so then now what Earth Blessings is the interweaving of traditional herbal medicines and the esoteric understanding and properties of herbs as well, so that they work on an energetic, a spiritual, and a physical level.
Amazing. Yeah, I was about to ask that. When you are working with the plants and you're making these tinctures and tonics and getting the energetic properties to work, is there some kind of method behind that to really activate the herbs in a way that people normally just can't by just consuming them?
Yeah, I use traditional alchemical processes.
Yeah.
So it's a maceration period followed by a decalcination period. So essentially you're extracting the spirit from the plant during the maceration and then augmenting what would typically be considered the waste or the plant material back into ashes and salts so that it can be added back into the final product.
Oh, wow.
Creating like a more holistic approach. So instead of just separating body and spirit, we're separating them, consecrating them, concentrating them, and then re-augmenting.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful process, hey?
Yeah.
And can you tell us about the tattoo, the symbol you've got here?
Yes, that is terra firma, well, commonly known as the earth symbol, terra firma, and often represented as the medicine wheel.
Okay, beautiful.
And it's been used by a lot of shamanic, a lot of ancient, and a lot of esoteric societies.
Yeah.
As a connection to both the earth and the spirit realms.
I've seen it pop up a few times, like over my lifetime, and I'm just like, wow, this symbol's.
It
really,
is a potent symbol.
Yeah.
And I used it as part of the Earth Blessings logo, because it represents that earth element, you know, essentially the earth, fire, water, wind, the meeting crux in the middle. So it represents the natural world.
Nice.
And so my commitment to myself, to my practices, to this medicine life, was to essentially wear it on my face. And that way, it's a way of holding myself accountable and checking in, you know, like if I'm not living to my true potential, if I'm not following the calling of spirit and the lust and belief in the power of the natural world and these natural medicines that I hold.
Beautiful.
That's something I need to face every day when I look in the mirror. So it's a way of going like, am I living my purpose not only today but every day?
Just going all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I've often toyed with the idea of getting the Eye of Ra tattooed on my face here, just behind the ear. But my only commitment is like, well, I won't be able to get a job, or it'll hinder my. And I'm like, I don't want a job. I want to fully commit to the spiritual path and work amongst that. So, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
It may be a big commitment step. Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
You know, like once that commitment's been made, you know, like
can't go back.
No, but the universe, you know, the universe loves courage. Nature loves courage, and I see nature, source, spirit, the universe, all as the same creative energy. And so, like, if you show nature courage, nature will reward you.
Yeah, I honestly believe that. Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us about being a medicine man and what that involves, and some things you help people through in that world?
For me, medicine man encapsulates everything that I do.
Yep.
Whether it's through sharing psychoactive plant medicines in order to allow people to experience more of themselves, to find loving places for their trauma and to be able to hold people in the depth and the beauty of the human experience, all the way through to what I do with catering.
Yeah.
By you know, working with whole, organic, nutrient-dense foods.
Beautiful.
Incorporating lots of herbs, lots of adaptogens, and through to the work that I do with Earth Blessings, which is
amazing. Yeah, you've got it all going on.
So that's I like to use medicine man as a broad scope, because like the healing power of plants is my greatest focus.
Yeah.
In terms of the work that I do and provide.
Amazing. Yeah. And you were saying when you're working in these kitchens, you're trying to fill as many herbs and health foods into the meals as possible.
Yeah.
What are some things people can add into their cooking at home, or really try and capitalize on putting more herbs in for healing properties just in daily life?
The really simple things is, you know, increasing things like garlic, ginger, ginseng.
Ginseng, yeah, nice.
Goji berries, cinnamon.
Oh, nice.
Really simple. I mean, most things that, you know, like people will have in their pantry. You know, I mean, there's obviously huge amounts of herbs that you can go into. You know, like, example things like, you know, having a fennel seed tea after a meal will aid digestion. So it'll not only help to soothe the stomach, but it'll increase the rate that you're digesting the meal that you are, leaving you feeling sluggish for a shorter period of time, through to...
That's cool, yeah. I love that. And when you're doing the work that people would call sort of shamanism, or kind of people through journeys for whatever reason, what are some of the plants that stand out to you, and how do you connect with them and work with them through a healing or spiritual experience?
I predominantly serve Wachuma, like San Pedro.
Yep.
Due to its nature. It's such a beautiful and loving spirit. And it's a way of taking both the practitioner and the participant deeper into themselves, but not only deeper into themselves, but deeper into the nature of nature. So it allows us to see ourselves both separate from ourself, separate from our thinking mind, but to witness how intrinsically entwined we are with everything that surrounds us, the spirit of the non-living and living things.
Wow. It's quite miraculous how these substances like psilocybin and San Pedro can do these and give these experiences. It's almost like the physical creates a bridge to the spiritual. And
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, even the common name for Wachuma, like San Pedro, is so because the way that the medicine acts, much like Saint Peter in any Christian faith, holds the keys to experiencing heaven on earth.
Oh wow!
And so once the conquistadors came through South America and tried to Christianize, the medicine was tried to be wiped out because it was seen as a way of like worshipping the devil. But until one of the priests, one of the monks, actually sat with the medicine and realized that for the first time in his entire religious life, he had experienced what it was like to exist inside the gates of heaven while he was still a living. And that's where the term San Pedro or like Saint Peter was then applied to this medicine.
That's really interesting how the Western world or the Christian world were trying to suppress this medicine, saying it was devil worship.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you look at the lives that each people were living, what's more devilish?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's quite ironic.
It really is.
Yeah. So what made that jump for you, where you were doing cooking, catering, and the herbal tonics, moving into more of the spiritual path and working with plant medicines and ceremony and things like that? Was there a catalyst for you or a calling that came through?
A huge calling. Like I'd been serving medicine for around 22 years, but I'd never really spoken about it too highly due to the nature of it.
Yeah, of course.
But I guess as we've been entering what seems to be a new psychedelic renaissance and people are really starting to move forward with their trauma, I started offering these services to more and more people and being more vocal about the therapeutic benefits of plants.
Yeah. And just being a guide for them in their experience.
Yep.
Well, what are some of the things that a shaman has to do when running a ceremony or helping people through that experience? Like what is the actual role and things that pop up during that ceremony that need to be taken care of, like energetically, spiritually, and possibly physically as well?
Physically, it's just tending to people's needs.
Yeah.
Making sure that they're as comfortable as they can be within the space that they're navigating or that we're navigating together.
Yeah.
On an energetic level, it's maintaining the hygiene of the space, extracting and removing any entities or blockages that people are holding on to.
Yeah.
Physical support during highly emotional states.
Yeah.
Body work to help energy move.
What are some forms of body work to help energy move in those circumstances? Is it just stretching or?
Stretching, trigger points, massage.
Okay, beautiful. So you got to be very diverse in your set of skills to run a ceremony like that. Is there anything that's popped up in the past that you've heard of energetically? Like how do we keep the energy hygiene, and how do we remove things or influences or entities or even releases that come through, and how do we clear those out? Is there a technique or skill for that?
There is definitely a skill involved. It's hard to explain the technique because it's different from person to person.
Okay.
I am blessed with the ability to, I guess, be what the old European pagans would define as a sin eater. So I have the ability to, through breath, swallow your pain, your trauma.
Oh wow.
And then transmute that back through my system and send it back to God.
Oh wow. So you remove the blockage and heal it for them and send it away.
I don't heal them. I don't heal it.
Okay.
I just remove it from their system.
Oh wow. That's very cool. I was speaking to a friend about this actually just yesterday, who was telling me about this very technique. And it just seems so radical, that the natural ability you have to be able to pull that blockage and transmute it, you know, which is a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Wow. And things like entities of that nature, is there a method for sending them away through intention, visualization, or just keeping the space safe from that, in that sort of nature?
Yeah, I mean, largely, like, once you've extracted something, ideally getting it out of the space, and then sending it back to light from outside of the space.
Okay, beautiful.
Because everything wants to be everything. You know, and what I find is that most of the time the entities that people are carrying are not necessarily like, when I say entities, I don't mean like demonic spirits or anything. So
just sort of lost or souls that are looking for energy or sustenance, or
most of the time it's something that we've created for ourselves.
Okay.
So it's unprocessed trauma, unprocessed grief, unprocessed anger that we've then fed so much that it begins to take on a life force of its own.
Wow.
And so people don't really realize that they're harboring this thing inside them, that through, without shifting their state of being and their state of mind, it's unable to be released.
Wow. Okay.
So it's just about recognizing that, and then whether it's using touch or sometimes talking to it in order to get it to release, and then physically extracting.
That's very, very interesting, actually, that we're almost giving life to a sub-entity or sub-personality of our own that can then bear its own life force, which is remarkable about the human ability to create, you know, but we're creating every second of the day, I take it then. Wow. And would you find people who don't process these emotions that are building these sub-entities, that comes out in different ways, like whether they're really drunk or triggered, and
will
then
always
boom.
come out in their shadow side.
Wow, wow. Is there tools people can use to become aware of that and begin to start healing that with it before it becomes a bigger problem?
Probably the greatest tool in terms of what I've found in terms of like really acknowledging your shadow aspects is to get feedback from people who are close to you.
Okay.
So something that I do in my life fairly regularly is to ask 5 of my closest friends, partners, closest friends or whatever, is to provide a reflection on my life as to something that I may not see about myself, something that I may not know about myself.
Wow. Yeah, that's a tough conversation.
But a beautiful conversation.
Beautiful, yeah.
But then which allows me to see where I may be projecting, like what shadow aspects may be creeping up, what areas of my life that I am maybe not living in integrity.
True. That's I like that. It's powerful.
And that gives me the basis to really deconstruct the way that I present and the way that I perceive my actions compared to the way that others perceive my actions.
True.
You know, even if it's still as something as a few years ago, one of the reflections I got was that I was generous to default, and then I was just like, okay, so how that gave me a chance to look at, you know, how much am I really giving of myself?
That's true.
And is there an expectation to receive in return, or
True.
am I just generous by nature?
That's a very good point. Yeah. Well, it's almost like there's nothing wrong with generosity, but then if you're being overly generous, it could be something else that's.
Yeah, it could play into whether it's people pleasing or a form-based trauma response from childhood patterning, or
True.
like, it really gave me things like that give me a chance to dissect of like where is this coming from.
I feel like on the healing journey, on the spiritual journey, we could find something that we didn't like about ourselves. We heal that, and we swing the other way, and to the point where it's just you're out of balance again. But still progress, I suppose. Things like spirit guides and of that nature. Is there any techniques that you have to have helpers on spirit side, or get spirit guides to help you in ceremony or throughout life?
I call in my guides most days.
Yeah.
Like, it was through shamanic journeying, and through I'm blessed that I've had the opportunity to exit this physical realm 7 times in my life, through actual physical death.
Like a near-death experience, or actually dying?
Actually death.
Oh wow!
Like pronounced dead, and then
7 times.
Yeah.
What's happening with that? Is that freak accidents, or is it something?
Some of them was early life, like I was born quite premature. Some of them
Yeah.
have been overdose. Some have been accident.
Okay. Wow.
But
and each time has been a remembered occasion of
Yes.
leaving and coming back.
Yeah.
What took place in that lay time where you were out of body or deceased?
Generally, it's the same. It's the same sort of thing. Like, much like in astral travel, like I can feel and see myself above my physical body, and then hear beautiful orchestral music.
Oh wow.
And then it's generally a moving towards a light. The light's generally either a really bright white light or something with a blue spectrum.
Okay.
And then there are, as moving towards the light, there are shadows, people.
Shadow people.
Yep.
And other angelic people guiding you there, or is it more so?
It's generally just a straight path.
Okay.
I'd say that there's more of a feeling of familial people, whether it's ancestors or spirit guides, or
Wow.
but it's more of a home-based feeling.
Yeah. And did you go into this light, or were you sort of, I shouldn't go there because it may not come back, or any feelings of fear? Or
Never
No.
a feeling of fear.
Okay.
Really just a feeling of peace and of home.
Wow.
And then, much like waking up from a lucid dream, you would have that falling feeling, and almost like you're falling back into your body, and then coming through with shock. And whether that shock was, like my heart or my breath starting again, or the old electrical buzz.
Yeah. Wow. So during these times, I take it, did you meet and speak with your spirit guides, or did they give you
Yeah.
any insights in regards to your life and that sort of thing?
No insights in regard to my life.
Okay.
But just the presence of meeting people and knowing that they were there.
Okay. Wow.
And that I had support outside of this world.
Beautiful.
And then as I started to not run from the connection that I had to the spirit realm, because it was rather strong when I was a child.
Really? Could you share some experiences that happened to you as a child spiritually that Shook you a bit, or just?
Or never really shook me, but like I would see spirit constantly. You know, there was an old lady that used to come into my backyard that I would play with.
Oh wow!
And I had a lot of my friends weren't visible to most people.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And these were just guides or spirits, or just random?
Both.
All of
Both.
it.
Yeah, all of it.
Can you see a distinction when you're seeing spirits, even as a child, of the ones who are of a high vibration or the ones who are shadow or lost? Is there a distinction in how to pull them, how to tell which one's serving which purpose? Without obviously judging, of course, but you know what I'm talking about?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. You know, the only reason that I kind of know who my guides are now is because they've been with me my entire life.
Oh, okay. So that familiar
so it's a familiar thing.
Okay, beautiful.
You know, like, yeah, they do feel different to some spirits. It feels more like, you know, sharing space with a dear friend or a parent.
Nice.
Or
beautiful, yeah. Because I've had experience of seeing spirit. When it first started off, it was always you're waking up at 4 a.m., you're got the sleep paralysis type vibes, and then you see a shadowy figure that was a lot of fear will come up, and then they'll say things or do things, and then I just ignored it, thinking it was just a dream or whatever else, you know. But it kept happening quite a lot, and you just begin to suppress that or don't talk much about it.
Yeah.
But when I did see what I would call an angelic spirit or a different type of spirit, where I was just out of body, and then this almost like a purple portal was on the roof just spinning, and then this man jumped through it, bright, big purple aura just glowing. And I was more scared than seeing the shadow people, because I was like, is this guy going to pull me up to a different world or something like that? But I became aware that was one of my guides. I've never seen in that way before, but just the shock of experiencing an out-of-world being can be, you know, terrifying in the beginning, but it shouldn't really be. But it's just all the fear from those sleep paralysis things must have still come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understandably. Yeah. But most of my guides are either my blood ancestors, that, you know, whether it's 1 or 2 or maybe 4 or 5 generations above where I am now.
Okay.
Or animal familiars.
Animal.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So like I work really, really closely with bears and crows.
Oh wow, yeah. Speaking of the crows, I've had crows always follow me around. Like it's ridiculous. More so now, when I'm with certain people, they'll just come around or annoy me, or every morning at my window or something like that. What is the symbol of the crow, and how do you work with them?
The crow's a symbol of transition.
Okay.
Transition and protection.
Oh, beautiful.
So just the crow, or the Australian raven. It's a very, very strong protective spirit.
Okay.
They are watchers.
Mm.
You know, like and if we're looking into Norse mythology, like Odin would use ravens as his eyes and send them out every morning to look over the universe and come back and report to him what was happening.
Wow.
But for me, the crow mainly represents a strength and fortitude, like a protection for oneself.
Nice.
And transition.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because when I did first start getting the crows, it was a big transition. Yeah. The first sort of peering through the veil, I suppose, when you know, when quote unquote like an awakening, or things start to happen in a more sped up, more miraculous fashion. Yeah. Amazing.
They quite often say that they are the connection between this realm and the other.
Okay.
You know, like they move between life and death. Much like the snake, it symbolizes a space between this plane and the other worlds.
Beautiful. And you also work with the bear, is that right?
Yeah.
And is that your spirit animal? Or is
the
that
bear is my spirit animal.
Okay, cool. And how do spirit animals work, and what kind of things do they bring into your life?
Both spirit animals and really, I mean, we can call upon the medicine of any animal,
Okay.
if we choose to work with it, or if it chooses to work with us.
True.
But it's largely about their medicine is the attributes that they bring. So like something like a bear is strength and power, but there's also a real nurturing element to the bear.
True.
In the way that they raise their cubs, in the way that they hibernate, the way that they hunt for food.
That's true. Yeah. So they're trying to help you embody more of that energy in your life.
Yep.
Okay, cool, man. I like that. Because I was doing a meditation with a lady down in Denmark about calling in your spirit animal, and you call it in, whatever comes in.
Yep.
And then my one came through and it was a snail. And then I was just like, oh, I'm going to ask again, and then the snail's still there. I'm like, asked again, and then it's still there. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, what are you trying to tell me, snail? And the snail was just like, slow down, enjoy the present, and the eternal now within the shell of the pattern of the Fibonacci that's coming through. I was like, cool. I really expected like a dragon or something, but snail makes a lot of sense because I do everything really, really quick.
Yeah, and listen, that calling to slow down is very beautiful, and like. The other beautiful message that the snail brings through is that you always have home with you. Like home is part of you. You could say home is the heart, or
yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to me actually, because a lot of times, or my thoughts, going down tangents, looking for home, looking for family, looking for seeking outside. But yeah, I didn't put. Thank you.
Yeah, so the snail kind of represents always having a home with you, or always having a home in your heart, or like never being lost.
True. That makes perfect sense.
Because home is you.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I actually love that at all. And with shamanism as well, you see things like crystals and bird wings. I saw a post of yours with the eagle wing. Well, what are some of the things that those do in ceremony, and how do you use them, such as crystals and feathers?
I don't use crystals all that much.
Yeah.
I mean, they're incredible for the people that resonate with them. The feathers that I will use will be used generally to I work with raven and eagle a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Particularly raven, like if we're moving through some dense energy and extracting something that doesn't really want to be there, or something that's not necessarily you, whether it's, like I said before, the manifestation of shadow aspects or whatever it is, it's a great way of using the feathers to, once we've extracted what needs to be extracted, to sweep clear the body and provide a protective coating for it.
Wow. Cool. And the raven really helps that process.
To ground that in.
That's cool. That's really cool, actually. I've always wondered how they work with the tools and the tools work with us. And do you often or not do plants communicate with you and call you to work with them?
Yes.
Whether it's a random tree, flower, whatever.
Yeah.
And how does that process occur? Is it just an intuition, or can you actually communicate with kind of a language or with certain plants?
It's a listening. So, I mean, you could call it an intuition.
Yeah.
Whether or not that intuition can be heard as a voice or a feeling. I typically navigate that whole spectrum from actually speaking with the spirit to just feeling its energies.
What are some of these plant spirits? Is it an overarching group spirit that work with the plant, or is it an individual? Every individual plant has an individual spirit.
Every individual plant has yes, every individual plant has an individual spirit, but also every individual plant has a rose is a rose, and all roses will have the same attributes in terms of their medicinal or spiritual properties. But then not every rose is the same.
True.
So it's about understanding the broad spectrum of what the attributes of that plant is, and then building enough of a relationship that you can understand its subtleties and
True.
feel the energies of that plant. You know, like maybe a red bloom from a particular bush carries a stronger essence than a white bloom from another bush, or
Makes sense. Yeah.
not to say that colour has anything to do with the potency of the medicine,
Yeah.
but also the amount of love and intention and care that's been put into the raising of the medicine.
True.
So as much as, like, you know, dill is a perfect example. Like, dill is one of the oldest medicinal plants. And I mean, the term dill stems from the Norse word dilla, which means to lull. So it was quite often used.
To lull?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Like to pacify,
Okay.
to calm.
That does make sense. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was, you know, it's quite often used to help children with stomach and digestive issues,
like soothing and
and
stuff
adults.
like that. Okay.
But it also helps to calm the nervous system enough that you know, we're able to relax or have better sleep, or
Okay, cool.
move out of really high cortisol states.
Beautiful. And because all the plants have their own spirit, we are spirit as well.
Yeah.
Do the plants need to be consumed for us to work with them?
No.
Or is that like consent in a way to connect?
That's consent in a way to connect.
Yeah.
You know, like the best way to, much like with a partner or a new lover or anything, the best way to build a relationship with a plant is slowly. You know, like start by touching it, feeling it, smelling it, sleeping with it under your pillow so that it begin entering into your subconsciousness. If you do begin like ingesting, begin with very small doses. You know, like, and then increase those doses slowly. And then look at different ways that you can ingest the plant. You know, like can you put it into bath water and absorb some of its medicine topically? You know, like how many different ways? How open can you be to exploring all of what this plant has to offer?
So you wouldn't recommend us going all in with a big dose? It's just weave your way in and build a relationship with the plant.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, I mean, you can just jump in with a big dose.
Yeah. Whatever you're feeling, I suppose. But
yeah, but like, I mean, for me, if I want a long-lasting and reverent relationship with a spirit that I'm going to be working with and calling on for the next countless amount of years that I'm on this plane, I want to get to know them, like really know them.
True. Wow. And you can use different plant spirits in ceremony and different occasions. They all have their own sort of energy. Are there any plants that you've worked with in your career that stand out as a particular use in ceremony, whether it's a loving or nurturing or protective, that you could share with us for an example of?
Rosemary is an incredibly protective plant.
And rosemary is a feminine energy?
Masculine.
Masculine, okay.
Yeah, rosemary, masculine energy. But it's really strong, really protective. So, also really grounding.
Wow, that's cool.
And so, you know, you can either, I guess, in terms of ceremony, it can either be burnt, consumed as tea, even just crush the leaves and smell them on your hands.
Wow.
Lavender is another great one.
Masculine also?
Lavender is very feminine.
Feminine, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But, you know, like say if someone has moved through a rather difficult process, whether it's lavender oil or like, just like a little bit of lavender oil, and allow them to take a few deep inhales, allow the nervous system to come to a real deep state of relaxation, and allow the plant to guide them into that.
Beautiful.
Or just simply giving them a sprig of lavender that they can play with, they can touch, they can connect with, they can allow the oils in their fingers to break down the oils in their plants and move into the aromatherapeutic benefits that way.
Beautiful. Love that. I had a question for you, but it was gone as you were describing that that process, because I was really, well, what are some of the strongest aphrodisiacs you found out there?
Ooh, they do vary.
They do vary?
They do vary. Some of the, like for me personally, and for male-bodied people,
yep.
I definitely recommend He Shu Wu.
He Shu Wu, okay.
He Shu Wu and ginseng.
Okay.
In terms of
any ginseng, or a certain type of ginseng that's more potent?
Siberian
is
the best.
Okay, cool.
But it also, aphrodisiacs is I guess it's a large field.
Yeah, it is very large, yeah.
Because you have some plants that work on libido, and some plants that work on sexual function and hormone balancing.
Okay.
And so we kind of need to bring those two worlds together.
That makes sense. Yeah. And do the aphrodisiacs differential between women and men, or can some of them do both?
There are definitely some that do both.
Okay.
And a lot of those ones are I guess ones that work more on libido. And by means of working on libido, they allow us to soften, to kind of slow down the thinking mind.
True.
Allow us to be more present in our body, allow more blood flow, and so by becoming a vascular dilator, we get more blood moving through our extremities, and the more blood that moves through our extremities, the more receptive we are to touch, the more aliveness there is in our skin and in our nervous system.
So that also would take us out of fight or flight as well?
100%.
Okay, amazing. So Siberian ginseng and He Shu Wu, what are some for the feminine?
If we're looking at sexual function, because essentially both He Shu Wu and ginseng are more geared towards sexual function than creating arousal states.
Okay.
But if we're looking at sexual function, then things like pomegranate, watermelon.
Okay. Those red type.
Yep.
Fruits.
Damiana is a beautiful, beautiful one that seems to gravitate more to women's arousal than men's arousal.
Okay. Awesome. Watermelon, pomegranate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I make watermelon juice.
Great.
I do that before the gym. For some reason, the blood flow is just insane. Yeah.
And that's the same reason it becomes an incredible aphrodisiac, because you have more sustained blood flow, and therefore you're more receptive to sensation.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And there's some more questions I need to run through with you, but here we go. Are there certain things that you do for like protecting your own energy or mental energy in this game and also in daily life, like some certain practices that?
There are plant spirits that I work with in terms of protection. I guess like tobacco, being a large one.
Mapacho and stuff like that.
Yeah, either mapacho or harpe.
Oh, nice.
And so I would quite often use harpe, especially in and around ceremony. just to really cleanse the energetic field and keep the mind awake.
Beautiful. Is there a difference between doing the mapacho, smoking it, or doing the harpe through the nasal passages?
Very different.
Yeah. I've done both. I know the experience is different, but energetic-wise, the difference between the two.
Yeah, smoking is creating much more of a protective cloak.
Okay.
And so, like, to be able to smoke and then to use the smoke to blow.
Okay.
It's a way of cleansing and protecting in that manner.
Beautiful.
Where administering harpe, it essentially flushes your auric system from the inside out.
Beautiful. I got to get the thing. What do you call that thing where you?
Karupe.
Karupe. Yeah. Get one of those. I just ordered some mapacho sticks from South America at the moment. Beautiful. But I got to get into the harpe as well.
But I mean, due to the nicotine content, it's not the most. It's not something that I would make part of my everyday life.
But every now and then.
But yeah, when it's necessary, it's a beautiful tool and a beautiful ally to work with.
Even now, I'm just thinking about the time I did harpe. I'm getting the sensation through my brain right now just by thinking about it.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
And I find a lot of plants work that way. Like once you really meet a plant and it really meets you and you form a relationship with it.
Yeah.
You can call upon the medicine of that plant. Like, whether it's a visceral memory or...
That's cool. Yeah, I definitely feel like mapacho called me quite often.
Yeah.
Hope it's not addiction, but... what I was going to ask you was, things like past lives. Have you connected with past lives in ceremony or through dreams? And become aware of those?
Both. Yeah. Whether it's through ceremony, through dreaming, or seeing practitioners to do things like crystal dreaming and past life regression. I say past because what I have experienced is that we're living multiple lives concurrently in different realms.
Different dimensions?
Yeah, different dimensions.
How many do you think? Is there a number that you've got an idea on? Or?
I've experienced 5.
5. That number's come up for me as well, actually. So that's cool.
I don't know if there's more or less, but it's and due to the non-linear nature of time and space, it's my belief that what we're experiencing as past lives are currently being lived in another realm, another dimension, another time and space.
Like a multiverse type scenario. Cool. And you've actually experienced those? Like stepped in for a while?
Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I've seen myself in situations that help to explain why I was navigating some of the issues that I was at that time. Like in one, I experienced myself as an English woman.
Oh, really?
My spouse or my husband, my partner, was quite an aggressive drunk person.
And this is happening concurrently, or this is past life?
I believe this is concurrent.
Okay.
Or at least for the time that I was navigating this was concurrent.
Wow.
And at the time, I had a lot of difficulty. This is going back a few years, or quite a few years ago now. But at the time, I was having a lot of difficulty articulating and speaking my needs. And I'd witnessed in the past life how, like, whenever I would, essentially ask my partner or my husband or whatever if we could have more money to provide food, because he would be angry that there'd be no food on the table. And then it would be like straight to choking.
Oh wow!
And so that choking sensation that I was experiencing in other life for asking for what I need was then stifling my ability to ask for what I need in this realm.
So it's all like interconnected and affecting one
Yeah.
another. Wow. Because something's happening to me just recently. I've been eye gazing with people, and sometimes when I'm looking at them, their face begins to change, and I can see them, but in a different
Yep.
guise. It's happening now as I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think what's happening there. Am I seeing past life popping up, or different parts of the personality? Because what I'm seeing with you is I'm seeing a very perfect black beard, small glasses, black gown, as if like high up in the Muslim faith. And then I was seeing a Native American Indian that flicked, and I saw like a Nordic or maybe a pirate with a big strong moustache and very super masculine. So I'm just wondering, does that resonate with you at all? Or am I just, I don't know what's happening, because this is very new to me,
Yeah.
that this is happening.
I'm not sure too much about how the different facets of spirit presents in that manner. I know the principle behind the amorphous or the shifting that we see during eye gazing
Yeah.
is the same principle that's been used for scrying and divination
Okay.
for centuries. You know, whether it's like looking into a crystal ball or into a flame. It's that single. It's essentially a single point meditation
It's interesting.
that
Yeah.
allows us to see
Different stuff.
beyond this realm.
That's cool. So it's scrying in a way too, yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Maybe I should try scrying. Yeah. Need a big black obsidian
Yeah.
ball would be nice. Have you had much experience with psychic phenomena, or scrying, or things of that nature, or seeing things happen before they happen?
To some degree, yes. To some degree, no.
Okay.
Like, my intuition is incredibly strong, but I don't necessarily see things before they happen. Occasionally in dream spaces, like it's something that's popped up
Here and there.
intermittently
Yeah.
throughout the last 30 years.
Okay. How old are you now?
42.
42. Awesome. Awesome. So you've been doing this for shamanic work for a while now,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And going back to your grandmothers, and they were working with, what do you call it, a wedge witch, is that?
Hedge witch.
Hedge witch.
Yeah.
And that's working with herbs for healing and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Amazing. So do you find like this stuff is maybe passed down in your ancestry, where you've got this internal drive to...
Definitely. Like, my lineage is practiced, whether you want to call it druidism or...
Druidism, yeah. I've heard about the druids. Is that like a spiritual fraternity that had their own herbs, that worked with herbs for spiritual growth?
both plants and, plants, energy, virility, like sort of sexual energy.
Yeah.
The druids were, and I guess still are, equal parts priests, seers, healers, noblemen,
Wow.
lawyers.
All of it.
Yeah,
Wow.
they were the figureheads, or that pillar of the community, much like the shaman is today. If we look at the Siberian shamans or the South American curanderos, that person or those people play a role within their community that is equal part doctor, therapist, spiritual guide.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it's like you're sort of stepping into that.
Yeah,
At the
and
moment.
even jester, like,
That too.
yeah,
Got to entertain, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's a lot of what traditional ceremony is the ritual of performance, and performance allows us to step outside of ourselves.
True. Yeah. Is there any herbs that you know of that we can take or use for things like astral projection or channeling to make ourselves very pure and clear, to have these activate these gifts, or is it unique to the individual?
Both unique to the individual, but herbs like Kalia will increase the ability to astral travel.
Really,
It
Kalia?
will, yeah.
I've never heard of Kalia before.
I've got a tincture called Dreamwalker.
Okay, I'm buying it.
But it essentially promotes lucid dreaming. And so within that lucid dreaming, we're able to separate the knowledge or the thinking mind to a place where we can understand that we're dreaming. And when we understand that we're dreaming, then we have the ability to manipulate that dream into whatever we choose.
Nice.
And then once you have the ability to do that, then you take that into meditation, and you can still have that same experience where we're existing beyond the body, and we have the opportunity to change
The reality.
The reality.
Of the dream.
Yeah.
And now people say that our life is analogous to a dream. This world we're living in now is a dream. If we master lucid dreaming and things like that, could we begin to master this reality and begin to bend and manifest and warp reality itself?
Absolutely. Reality is all perception based.
Yeah.
So if you change your perception, you change your reality.
And that can be anything you want.
Yeah. Because my reality is different to your reality.
Very true.
And
Have you had experience with manifestation or setting an intention and having that thing flourish to life?
I'm currently living in the fruition of my last heart's desire.
Your last heart's desire?
Well, the last time that I went into my heart to see what it was that I, what was truly alive for me there, what was a home in the gum trees with my beloved.
Beautiful.
And we had to take a very interesting route in order to make that happen. We started looking for houses, but none of them had the feeling.
That magic.
None of them. Not only the feeling, but like none of them were the vision that I saw when I looked inside my heart. Not only the feeling of that, but like the actual physical visions.
True. So you had like a vision of this house before, and did you find that house?
My partner ended up finding it first.
Wow.
And at the time, they wanted it to be an all-female bodied house. Someone else was living there, and so she had the opportunity to take up a room there.
Okay.
And so it meant that in order to follow the thread of this vision, she needed to move in there and maintain the vision for both of us.
Wow.
And so we ended up living apart for nearly 500 days.
Count the days. Yeah. Must be a special kind of love.
Yeah.
Do you believe in things like soulmates, twin flames, and of that nature, or is that just a bit of buzzwords?
I don't believe in twin flames.
Yeah.
I don't believe that we are half people. I don't believe that anyone makes up the other part of our soul.
Yeah. Good belief to have.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, by that understanding, it means that who we are is intrinsically flawed because we're not whole, and I don't.
Yeah, not a good belief to have.
Yeah, soulmates, I believe we have many.
That's true. Yeah, I'm finding that out. Meeting a lot of different people, mate.
Yeah.
And when you first met your partner, wife, or whatever, life partner, we can say.
Yeah.
Was it instant connection? Like, she was the one, or did it grow?
Both.
Wow.
Both. We'd been talking back and forth for a while on the internet, and then the first time we actually met, she'd come into a restaurant I was working at.
Beautiful.
And so I'd cooked for her or whatever, and then before she left, I came out and I'm like, you know, can we hug?
Mm.
And during that hug, we literally just melted together. Like the world stopped, the cafe, the restaurant, everything was just happening around us.
Wow. And
But
that could,
I wouldn't say there was like the feeling of butterflies and excitement.
but the melting sounds a bit better to me.
Yeah, it was the feeling of coming home, the feeling of recognizing that I feel like I've known this person for
Couple lifetimes.
yeah,
Mm.
and then even to the point where, you know, our first date was laying on the floor,
Ecstasy.
listening to medicine music, and just gazing off into space, not really needing to say a word.
Mm.
You know, we laid together in silence for what could have been hours.
It's like creating that energy.
Yep.
That is just magic, I suppose.
And the safety to completely be ourselves in the presence of another,
Yeah.
without needing to
Fill in the blanks or
Yeah.
whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. How beautiful, man. Yeah.
Yeah, a gift, a real gift.
Mm. Is there a key that you found when it comes to things like manifestation or setting a vision and bringing it to life? Did you do any of those things with your businesses or with your life to set that intention, or did you just allow it to unfold?
Constantly.
Constantly setting intentions and visions?
Constantly setting intention and visions.
Okay.
And the way that I like to approach it
Mm.
is like never create from the space of the mind, to go into the heart in a meditation
Yeah.
and like see what's really alive there,
Mm.
and then be like, okay, so this is what I desire for my manifestation. You know, whatever it is that is. And this is my current reality. And in order to bring that forth, I know that I need to not only believe truly that this has already been obtained, that this is my current reality. I need to understand and witness my current reality, but I also need to currently believe that what it is that I desire to manifest is my true reality, and that there is no option other than that. That may be a feeling, it may be an actual vision. I don't do it too heavily structured. Like I want to make 150K this year or whatever else. I'm like, how do I want to feel when I make that 150K?
All heart, feeling based. Yeah.
And so then that's the vision, and then I need to live my life as if that is my current reality.
Every day is just a meditation of just bringing that to life.
And
I love that.
like to the point where it's not a meditation because it's a way of life.
Yeah.
I need every action, every word, every thought throughout that entire day. From the time I've decided that this is what I want to call into my life until the time that it becomes fruitful. I need to live as if there's no other option other than that.
Wow.
And then I look at my current reality and the future vision, and each day I build a bridge. What is one thing that I can do, physically do today, outside of belief and action, but outside of belief and thought and speech, but what is a physical action I can take on this day that takes me one step closer on this bridge to that manifestation.
Wow, that was so beautifully put. I was feeling my body crystallizing to that truth as you were saying it. That's brilliant. All right, let's see what else we got in this. One thing I wanted to ask you as well is just, I'm seeing some interesting symbols on your tattoos, on the hands there. Could you run us through this one here? Could you show it to the camera as well and get a nice shot of that? Beautiful.
This was given to me by a friend. She channels sigils.
Okay. So what's a sigil? Excuse my ignorance.
A sigil is essentially a magical symbol that is used to either bring in or cast out. So it's essentially like a talisman or an amulet.
Okay. Cool. She channels them. They just come to her.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I mean, I do receive a lot of sigils as well, but this one is not one of mine.
Okay.
And like, she received it in ceremony, and was just like, this is very different to everything else that generally comes through her channel.
Yeah.
Like much more primitive than most of the things that she channels. And so, you know, the question was, it's like, I've received this image. It's very clear that it's for you. Would you wear it?